Right, we get reaction now to that. We're joined by Gauteng ANC spokesperson Lesego Makhubela. Good to have you, and thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, and good evening to your listeners.
I mean, first and foremost, this is now characterized as a full-blown internal battle that is happening between the ANC in Gauteng and the ANC at Luthuli House because of a position that you took as Gauteng to form a minority government when others are saying you refuse to embrace the DA. Is there such an internal battle?
That's a very unfortunate allegation or analysis. And I think that your producers and those who help produce this show need to do a thorough research. Everything that we have done in Gauteng, including the constitution of the government of provincial unity, including the setup of cabinet, including the negotiations, who we spoke with and everybody else, we've done it through the blessings of National, through the national framework. National was part and parcel of every step we have to take. You know that there were delays. The Premier at some point had to be told not to announce. That is because we have done that in consultation with the National Executive Committee and the team which has been designated or delegated to actually handle coalitions. The second time we also had to do that. And therefore that is not true. We've always said that the GNU as well as the Gauteng government of provincial unity, it was about ensuring that whatever we put together is able to represent the broader spectrum of all political parties which are represented in that particular council. And what is worse is that we've always said this and we've maintained, I think the Chief Whip at National, the ANC Secretary General, Comrade Fikile Mbalula, the President of the ANC, everybody else in the ANC, came and said that the GNU does not hinge on the ANC and the DA working together. It's not about the ANC and the DA working together. That is grand coalition. And that's why we came out and said our interpretation of the electoral outcomes is that we must encompass all political parties and make sure that we come out with the all parties, whether a party has one seat, 2 seats, 3 seats, for as long as they sign into the GNU, we work with them. And that has always been the spirit, and that is the spirit, the same spirit that carried us.
So were you taken aback by the remarks made by Collin Malatji in Bakersdale about the formation of that executive, saying, one, they are untouchable golden boys that are always included in the executive to the exclusion of the youth?
It's a very unfortunate remark. Renewal of the ANC as discussed in 2017 conference of the ANC and reaffirmed in the 2022 conference of the ANC, and now recently through what the President said when he closed the National Executive Committee meeting. These kind of utterances, this kind of dastardly behavior has no place in the renewal of the ANC. It doesn't. And this is one of the reasons why we had people who were behaving like Julius Malema. That National Executive Committee was dissolved because it believed that radicalism meant rising through insults and character assassinating leaders and members of the African National Congress. Because those utterances were not just utterances that were made about certain individuals. It was an insult to volunteers of the ANC who were on the campaign, who were faced with difficulties in that campaign. You know that we had the most difficult campaign here in Gauteng. Most political parties were formed just to contest elections in Gauteng. Most independents who were on the ballot were in the ballot in the Gauteng. If you look at other legislatures, parliament, everything, the most fiercely contested elections were here in Gauteng. And that is because those people who are against the national, the democratic revolution, who are conniving to ensure that this national democratic revolution suffers a setback, understand what Gauteng means. Firstly, in terms of the economy, it's the biggest economy, but also if you are able to head the ANC in Gauteng and you head it in KwaZulu-Natal, what happened on the 29th of May will have happened. We will not be able to cross the 50% mark, and that's what happened. So for anybody to stand up and insult not just a few people, insult volunteers of the ANC in all the regions, to insult the leadership of the ANC and behave like a hired gun. It has no place in the ANC. And that's why the ANC in Gauteng has written to the officials to say we need to an audience with you, because these unwarranted attacks, they have to be clarified where they come from, who are the sources of these particular attacks, what informs them, why are we beginning to see a youth league that we thought that were doing away with such behaviors of the youth league of Julius, which does not discuss ideas. I mean, I said to Clement Manyatel, I was at the SABC, and I said, you are calling me to discuss corridor talk. When there's someone here when civil society has come and had a press conference, the Ahmed Katrada Foundation had a press conference together with other civil society formations to decry the service delivered in Johannesburg. There are young people who are qualifying, who should be studying, who should be in universities. We're not discussing that. You call me to discuss gossip, to discuss corridor talk, to discuss something that does not build this nation.
But young people are complaining. I mean, the convener of the ANC Youth League in Gauteng is also complaining. Never mind, the National came and spoke to us. The convener also held a press briefing. They said they don't understand why is it that they are left outside of that executive when they have been lobbying for at least 50% of heads of departments to be made out of under 35s. They had the convener of the ANC Youth League.
The convener.
Yeah.
The last time we had an elected chairperson of the ANC Youth League in Gauteng was in 2014. 10 years on, we have not had the Youth League going to a conference. That's what we thought, that they will have a conference to announce to the people of Gauteng that young people are finally going to the conference. We want the conference. It's been 10 years that the Youth League in Gauteng has been unable to hold the conference. We want the Youth League to go and hold a conference. You know that we suffered the big devastating losses in campuses where the youth is supposed to mobilize. The constitution of the ANC, remember the ANC the ANC Youth League is a structure of the ANC. And the ANC gives it tasks, it terms those tasks the twin task. One of those tasks is that it must rally young people behind the banner of the African National Congress. In this past elections,
you say they failed to do that?
In these past elections, we struggled to mobilize young people. We struggled in campuses. And these are some of the discussions that we're supposed to have.
But the ANC is blaming your election machinery. They're saying your election machinery failed to
the election
give those numbers. They're saying, in fact, your election machinery was consisting of only one person, Panyaza Lesego.
That is another thing that has no place in the renewal of the ANC. The renewal of the ANC has no place with people who can wake up and say that an entire election machinery of the ANC can be constituted by a single individual. It's not possible. And that is trying to launch Comrade Panyaza and to actually create a cult out of him, and he's not. He's part of a collective of a battalion of volunteers, platoons of volunteers on the ground in the regions. The ANC has structures at all levels, in the VD, in the voting districts, at branch levels, in the zones, in the regions and everything. And for anybody to wake up and say that, no, those volunteers, those structures were non-existent and only our chairperson was available is not correct. Comrade Panyaza presides over a collective, including in the executive. His success is an overall success of the collective that he leads with. He consults. In fact, many times the leadership of Comrade Panyaza and Comrade TK Ngeza are accused of over-consulting. Even I'm one of those people, I can single myself out, who says, on some of the issues you call us to a PEC to consult on issues that you are empowered to take decisions on. Because the ANC is anchored on collective decision-making. There is no decision or there is no success or there is no program. That is, whether it's Nasi's planning, whether it's our elevated priorities in the townships, or whether it's innovative ideas that we have come up with to fight and combat crime, to create employment and all sorts of things that have come from a single individual. They come from a collective. That is what the ANC is. And that is what the ANC represents. There is no single leader of the ANC who can be isolated from the collective. Comrade Panyaza is part of the collective. And even himself, such offenses, such utterances would offend him. Because one day, when there are challenges with government, we then must say, no, these are his challenges. When we know these are challenges of the organization, because these are decisions of the organization.
So, I mean, are you saying then, therefore, why the lobby of the ANC Youth League was not successful is one, because they are not organized, they've not gone to conference. Two, they didn't manage to mobilize young people around the banner of the ANC. Plus three, I suppose they were not represented in terms of the work that they needed to be doing. Hence, we don't find them in the executive. Hence, there is no broad, even geographical representation. They're saying, for example, the West Rand is excluded from that executive. It's only the region of
I'm saying
Johannesburg.
I'm saying that it's a constitutional imperative that every task team, whether it's a task team of the ANC, whether it's a task team of the ANC Youth League, or a what task team, its first primary responsibility is to launch a structure. That is the first preoccupation. Not way, a blue lights. That is an insult to hopeless youth who are yearning for solutions from their leaders, the Youth League, to come up with innovative solutions, to come up with, to hear the Youth League speak about them, to speak about the plight of the unemployed youth, to speak about the plight of unemployed graduates, to speak about the plight of doctors who have completed their studies but cannot find employment and all sorts of things. That is what we're saying. And actually, there's a lot of mistruths about the ANC in Gauteng undermining the youth. I'm one of the young people in the legislature. The convener of the Youth League is a deputy chief whip.
Yeah, so you only gave them deputy chief whip. They did.
Yeah, the deputy chief whip is a very serious. It's a very serious responsibility.
But the agreement, they say all chairpersons of youth leagues must be contributing to government.
We don't have a chairperson. We don't have a chairperson of the Youth League in Gauteng. We don't have. The last chairperson of the Youth League in Gauteng was Comrade Matome Chilwane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last chairperson. That collective, that executive which was announced by the Premier, it's an executive made up of proud products of the Congress Youth League. Tasneem Motara is a product of the ANC Youth League. Kidibone Dialetlavela is a product of the ANC Youth League. Lebohang Maile, senior amongst all of them, is a product of the Congress Youth League. Being president of COSAS, having given Mamuini Madigizela Mandela the lifetime presidency of COSAS, having led Gauteng Youth League as a chair and as a secretary, and now being a PEC member, I can name those people who are sitting in that particular executive. These are congressmen and congresswomen of the ANC Youth League. In fact, if you are to study, if you are to use the politics of gerontocracy, which are very limited, the politics of age, you will realize that the executive of Gauteng is the youngest in the country that we have put, who are transplanted from the baptismal font of the politics of the ANC, which is the ANC Youth League.
We segue from that to say they are old brooms. I mean, that you have to admit.
Very
that
unfortunate.
They've been in that executive at least for the last decade, if you want to put it that way.
The African National Congress prepares its leaders. There's never been a chairperson of the ANC Youth League in the history of the ANC Youth League in Gauteng who was MEC. Never. That's never happened. Because we prepare them. We say to them, go to school, prepare yourself, learn how the system of governance work, learn oversight mechanisms, how they work, learn PFMA, learn all these particular things. And when you are cooked and you are ready, then we give you those responsibilities. When Lewa Maile was the chairperson of the Youth League, and he was not put in EXCO, the collective that he had at the press conference, and he was not put on EXCO. He was made, I think, the whip of programming, because he had to learn. We've got to respect the electorate. We've got to respect the people of Gauteng and give them fine finished products. When we are satisfied that they have learned and that they are able to understand how government and system of governance work, we then are able to give them those particular responsibilities. Peter Mukaba, being president of the Youth League, when Thabo Mbeki was made president of the country after taking over from President Mandela, Call President Peter Mokaba to Mahlaba Ndlovu to tell him that I'm not taking you back to Parliament as a deputy minister. I want you to go and work in Luthuli House. There were no buses, kumbis, press conference, and people insulted. I can cite a lot of examples. Our last president of the Youth League, president, who's our Secretary General, Comrade Fikile Mbalula. The ANC after 2017, going to a difficult elections in 2019, recalled him from cabinet and said, President Mbalula, we want you to come and run our elections and be full-time at Luthuli House. It is not about cabinet post, because those utterances, when they land on hopeless youth, on unemployed youth, on youth who are yearning to hear the Youth League speak about the impact of artificial intelligence on their lives, the impact of the fourth industrial revolution on their lives, and the discourse that is ongoing on green technology and how they fit in. And they hear the people who are supposed to be leading those ideas and not coming with those ideas, only going on TV and speaking that we want cabinet posts. That is not going to land well on the youth. And that is what the electorate told us on the 29th of May, that we are tired of you talking about yourselves and the positions that you must occupy so that you can be in blue lights and be self-serving.
But to that point again of ideas, how do you think the electorate is going to react where you have 100% of the people that led you to where you are coming back to that executive?
They've done very well, those people. Remember,
that's not what the electorate believes.
Remember, it's no.
Otherwise, they would have shown at the polls.
It would have been a bloodbath. In fact, our internal polling, which you also have done your internal polling. I've come here many times. You were telling me about the polls that you have. At some point, those polls were telling us we're sitting at 12, 13%. And we could not come and say, that is what our internal polling is sitting. When those people came in, remember most of them came in at the second half. And when that cohort of MECs came, young people who came in, they did exceptionally well. They were able to propel us from what the polls told us at the beginning of elections, where we're sitting at around 13%, to almost 80%. That's when Nasis Pani came. Yeah. That's when we were able to expand the bursaries to deserving young people in Gauteng. Right. That's when we were able to then say, let's come with innovative way to fight crimes. That's when we were pragmatic and took decisive decisions to engage national and say that the e-toll is an albatross on the people of Gauteng. We need to get rid of them. This is the cohort of young people that came back.
Let me give you a chance to drink some water and clear your frog. Yeah. But I want to give you a chance by reading now what is turning out to be an exchange on social media and whether or not this is a behavior that you would support as the PEC. The MEC seems to have posted on his X platform, the sugar daddies send their boyfriends to insult us because they are cowards. I dare them to show their faces. What do you make of that comment?
I'm the spokesperson of the African National Congress in Gauteng. I don't discuss corridor talk. I don't discuss tweets. I don't discuss Facebook. I don't participate in the race to the bottom. And certainly the organization I speak on his behalf, we don't participate on the race to the bottom. So I don't sit and become a Twitter police and look at which member of the ANC, what they are tweeting, and looking at their comment and all sorts of things, whether it's fake accounts or it's real account. I don't do that. I want to be invited in your studio to speak to the people of Stratla, to speak to the people of Mamelodi, where they've not had water, to speak to the people of Hammanskraal, to speak to the people of Ekurhuleni, Soweto, and everywhere else, to address the hopeless youth and say to them we have a plan, to explain to the people of Gauteng how we are going to make sure that the Gauteng government of provincial unity works.
How are they going to believe you if your deployees themselves are misbehaving in public like that?
I don't discuss Twitter. It's a standard rule. I will not come and discuss Twitter. That is the race to the bottom.
I'm asking you, I mean, if people are watching your public spats and saying there's infighting in this party, and you're coming to tell us, no, everything is fine, we can deliver, and people are going to look at that and say, it's unbelievable.
That is why we are saying to all of you, to everybody, that kind of behavior has no place in a renewed ANC. And certainly, it will seem that the message of the president, when he closed the last National Executive Committee of the ANC, that we need to stop public spats. We need to stop sponsoring negative media articles in the newspapers and become faceless sources in those media papers. We need to stop insulting each other and all sorts of things. The president spoke profoundly about that. And it has to stop, including the behavior of anybody in the ANC, whether it's in the Youth League, the Women's League, or any structure of the ANC. We know if we have issues where to raise them. And hence, as the ANC in Gauteng, we've written to the National Executive Committee, to the officials, to seek their indulgence, because we can raise issues certainly on your show.
Yeah.
We have an audience with them. That line is not broken. Okay. That line still exists, that we can still access and speak to the National Executive Committee, including that line with the Youth League and any structure of the ANC. We still have that line with them.
We wanted you yesterday, you couldn't come, you were caught up in meetings, and the situation that we wanted to ask you was about Johannesburg. Is Kabelo Gwamanda resigning? Is that the position of the PEC, that he must do so?
Certainly we are having discussions. And those discussions cannot be sparked by the Damascus of the Damascus moment of Action SA. You know the leader of Action SA has been saying he will never speak to the ANC. The ANC is the most corrupt part, but he has had a mighty change of heart. You know, I think we need to call him now Paul.
Yeah, he says it's pragmatism. He sees that their numbers can certainly do something to deliver services to the people of Johannesburg in particular. Yeah,
that Damascus moment of Action SA, we certainly are discussing it. We are certainly having discussions about it, and we'll certainly announce a way forward. And our discussions, just like the discussions when we formed government in Ekurhuleni, when we formed government in Johannesburg and other municipalities in the Vaal as well as in the West Rand, was based on we need to put at the center of our work the people. Yeah. Not about Kamena Kawena, this party must get this, we must get
but
this,
Al-Jama
and no
says
service delivered.
They think these conversations are sparked by the insatiable desire of Dada Mrero to be mayor. They say they don't understand why he wants to be mayor so much. They even say he went and asked the president to be mayor.
Yeah, well, that is another call. We speak with Al-Jama, and certainly when we speak with Al-Jama, that is not the view expressed to us. We work very well with Al-Jama. They are not far from us on many issues, including on a contentious issue of the massacre of men, women, and children in Palestine. We agree with them. We've worked with them on many, many issues. And we're not certainly going to act opportunistically and behave as if we want to hunt with salt. Yeah. Now that there's a party with 48 seats, let's dump this one with 2 seats and go to this ones who have 48 seats so that we form a grand coalition and look like we are people who are desperate to actually access power through the back door. That is not what we want to do. You remember I came to your show and I said that the formation of government in Johannesburg was not precipitated by the African National Congress. That discussion was started by smaller parties. And Al-Jama was part of them, COPE was part of them, IRAS and many other parties were part of those who were calling for the DA to be taken out because of what was happening in the city of Johannesburg. And certainly, even if a decision has to be taken about anybody else, and we certainly, as the ANC, we certainly have to listen to what the Ahmad Kathrada Foundation has been saying, what civil society, we can't ignore it. In as much as we have to consult other parties that we are working with, and including consulting the ANC internal, including at national. But we must listen to what civil society is saying, then we'll make a determination.
Marota, appreciate you. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
That's Lesego Makhubela. They're speaking on behalf of the ANC in Gauteng.